Welcome to Habits of Leadership. In this program, we'll be meeting with business leaders to learn about their leadership triumphs and challenges. We'll also learn from them how their leadership style has helped them succeed in business through their employees. I'm Andrea Haran. I'm your host and coach of Focus Leadership. I am happy to introduce our guest today, Miss Amy Riley, who is the owner of two businesses, Shoop Consulting and Loving the Pregnant You. Amy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Andrea.
Could you do me a favor? And you've got two businesses. Could you please let the audience know what those are?
Sure. Shoop Consulting Group is a customized training and development company where we help businesses and leaders achieve results that they want, achieve their full potential, and achieve balance.
Fantastic.
And then Loving the Pregnant You brings coaching to the experience of pregnancy. So we provide life coaching and other services, including a book by the same name, Loving the Pregnant You.
An author, wonderful.
To help expectant moms feel confident and empowered.
That is great. Thank you so much. And if you don't mind, we're going to focus on the Shoop Consulting piece of the business. And and both of us, do leadership, but I know you love focusing on emerging leaders.
Yes.
First of all, can you just tell people what an emerging leader is, just in case they're not familiar with the term?
Yes. And I like the term emerging. They're stepping into their leadership. So I often think of it as somebody who is in their very first leadership role, maybe being groomed for their first role as a supervisor or a manager. Sometimes they're in their second role, but they're just stepping into their leadership. And I think that's part of the reason why I like especially working with emerging leaders, because they're open. They know they're in a learning curve. They're excited. They're gung-ho. They know that they're stepping into some new and different challenges. So working with them to, I like to say, uncover their leadership style, because I think it's within us.
Right.
That our leadership can be about bringing our innate gifts and our strengths to the table, and really deciding what we want our leadership legacy, if you will, to be about. And sometimes that seems like an odd concept for emerging leaders to consider, but I think the sooner we do, the more powerful that we can be as leaders.
Sure, and I would imagine that once they uncover that, they also have a more authentic style, which will naturally draw people to them, and not a copycat of some leader that they read about in a book or saw on TV or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it really well. I think that they're more dynamic, they're more authentic, they feel more confident, because they don't feel like I have to emulate someone else. Mm-hmm. I just get to be me, and I get to say who and what that's about.
Fantastic. Now, I know there's going to be triumphs, but I want to focus on the challenges a little bit first, because being a new leader, a new role, possibly with the same team that you've maybe just worked with. Mm-hmm. What are some of the challenges that they face?
So to your point, now managing those that used to be your peers, and sometimes also managing folks that are older than you or have more experience than you do. I've been seeing that a lot lately too. You've got these young high potentials, and now they're put in these positions where they're working with folks that have more years on the job than they do. Some things that I think are important in those situations are to get clear about what are your behavioral and your performance expectations. And as soon as you're clear about that, communicate that. Establish your leadership. Now,
I so love that. I so love that.
Sorry to interrupt.
I know. I love that. It's because, I teach the same thing. It's about set the expectations. People want to know where they're going, where they're headed. Mm-hmm. But if you don't tell them where that is, how are they going to know if they're on the right path? I love that. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I think balancing that with, hey, former peers, or my new team now, here's where I see each of you contributing. Here's where I'm going to rely on you. This is why your experience is so important. Make it clear what you're expecting of them and build them up along the way too. Another thing that I work with leaders at all levels, and maybe especially emerging leaders, is preparing for challenging conversations.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Right, it can just be a simple 5-question tool or a process that you go through as a leader to prepare for that challenging conversation so that you feel as confident and as comfortable as you can going in. And so that when something does come up,
Yeah.
you're going to go have the conversation rather than sweeping it under the rug or hoping it will go away or thinking you've got to do some major prep before you can have it. You have your tool, you know the process you're going to use when a challenging conversation situation comes up, and then you go and you have it.
And that's wonderful, because I find when people have to have those challenging conversations, their anxiety, the fear of the other person's reaction is actually will stop them from having those conversations. It's not that they think not talking about it will make it go away, but they're in their minds, they've built up truly a worst case scenario of how the person is going to react.
And sometimes
And does your tool help address that?
Yeah, and I've used different tools with folks. There's some out there. I mean, Crucial Conversations is a great resource.
Love that book.
Yeah, but really, just get some simple questions in place about what do you really want to accomplish with this conversation. How do you want the other person to leave the conversation feeling? We're not always 100% successful with that, but I think if we start off with that intention, we create a context and a framework that's most likely to get us there. And sometimes I think going through the worst case scenario, like what if the other person really does react in the worst way we think possible? How are we going to handle it? And sometimes we realize we lived through it.
No, and that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that, because doing that role play is just helps put people at ease.
Preparation helps so much.
Yeah. Why don't, you've worked with many emerging leaders. What would you say has been your success story, or their success story that you followed?
I had a group of emerging leaders that I was working with as an external coach that was going through a nearly year-long program. It's a fantastically robust program that this client of mine has. Anyways, there was a group of about 18 of them going through the program at the same time. And there was a few in particular, I worked with them individually and as a group, there was a few of them in particular who were working really long hours, like didn't have that balance in life. We're trying to be the strategic person, the tactical person, and the doer. And we worked on two things simultaneously with these few individuals that I'm thinking of. One was about priority and time management. And doing some of those real practical techniques. First, identifying what are your priorities.
Right.
And then how do you use your time management techniques to fit in those priorities? But then coupling that with those conversations about who do you want to be as a leader? What do you want to demonstrate? Where do you want to take your team? Helps inform those priorities.
Right.
In a more powerful way. And I think once you get clear about what you want to be about, what you want to focus on, because there's lots of things that we could do.
Oh my
as
gosh,
leaders.
Absolutely.
Right, new ideas, new opportunities are coming across our desks all the time. What are the ones that we're going to grab onto? What are the ones that are really going to take us and our group, our organizations, where they need to go? So I think coupling those two things together got them clear about what they wanted to be about. And then also, when they made that commitment to have the balance in life and to know that they were going to be more useful to their team, their family, their organization.
Right.
Like really, their organization is going to benefit if they cut back their hours some.
Well, sure, because otherwise they experience burnout. They get to a point where it's like, is this really even worth it? And catching that ahead of time can make all the difference.
So I think that clarity and then that commitment to making that shift is what really had it happen. For these three individuals. And all three of them have gotten promoted and more visible positions in the organization, and not having to add more hours to their workday to make it happen.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations on getting them to understand that.
It's fun to observe.
That's wonderful. Now, the show is called Habits of Leadership.
Okay.
So what would be one habit, I know you've got lots, one habit you'd like to share with our audience on something practical that they can do to help improve their leadership.
I like it. I like the question. The habit I would suggest is to take time to reflect on your leadership, and not the planning of the projects and the things that we're doing. We know that's important. We want to spend time on that. In addition to that, I would suggest the habit of reflecting on the being of your leadership. Acknowledge yourself for ways that you're stepping into your leadership, ways that you're leveraging your strengths, ways that you're succeeding as a leader. Make sure that you're doing it your way.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. That's great. Now, Amy, thank you again for being our guest today. Loved having you here and talking to you. I could talk to you for hours,
I know.
but we won't do that to the audience. But if they want to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
Okay. On the Shoop Consulting Group website, you can find that at www.shoopconsulting.com. Shoop is spelled S-H-O-O-P. And you can reach me at amy@shoopconsulting.com.
Wonderful. Thank you again for coming on the show. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your attention. And thank you for watching.